What's up, Juventini? Alberto here, and I've got all your Juventus news today, all right? Apparently, we are one step closer to bringing in Samardzic. Let's go. We got some surprise names in the midfield. A standoff between the bigger journalists circulating around Juventus that's very interesting that we have to keep tabs on. And then the big question, is Juve making progress? We ask ourselves that after every single game. We're going to take a look at that. And Giorgio Chiellini weighs in on the situation at Juventus and if fans can dream about the Scudetto. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, share the content if you enjoyed. This is the AJC. Let's rock. We're going to kick things off with the news that after 17 years, apparently Juve will renounce their latest appeals for Calciopoli and essentially put an end to the story. I personally don't think that this fight ends, and I just am not buying this news, so I'm gonna wait for stronger sources. But I want to let you all know what's being said out there and what's being reported. Apparently this coming out that Juve is going to renounce their latest set of appeals. We're obviously going to wait for more firm confirmations from stronger sources, but that could potentially happen. All right. Now, as far as the winter mercado, I told you we got a standoff between a couple of the bigger journalists, and those are Schira and Romeo Agresti. All right. So Romeo Agresti has seemingly said that all the targets Juventus is linked with, other than Domenico Berardi, can essentially be organized in a bin called Never Ever Happening, all right? But Schira, on the other hand, is saying 100% Juventus is going to bring in a midfielder in the winter mercado. He's also the one that broke the news early that Juventus was going to be in negotiations with Samardzic. And then everybody else followed suit saying that, yes, they are currently talking, and Juve was advancing quickly, okay? Well, today we got other news on Samardzic. I will get to it in a second. But as far as the targets circulating that Romeo Agresti says are never happening, you still have Jadon Sancho as those rumors continue to swirl around Juventus. Look, I might be in the minority because it seems like a lot of you want Jadon Sancho to come in and take this loan offer with half of the salary being paid by Man U. That's not the worst case scenario. But for me, with Jadon Sancho, I would look elsewhere and I would try something else and maybe something with a long-term type goal, because for me, Sancho, he moved to Manchester United. He had other clubs that he could have gone to, but he went to that. That was his first move to a big club. And honestly, if you look at the other players that went to Man U that started to later on have falling outs or hate the atmosphere there, because it is seemingly a dumpster fire right now, and he's not the only one. You have a long list of players that have had issues there. But for me, number one, we've seen this movie before. Man U players seem to be damaged goods when they leave there, okay? But number two, the main thing is a lot of those other players had an instant stimulus and flux. It wasn't just bad right out of the gate at Manchester United. He didn't even have that. He's literally done really nothing for Manchester United, in my personal opinion. And for me, I just think that Juventus, we're not in a position to not play the percentages. If we're making moves, we kind of got to hit, okay? But that's how I feel about the Sancho rumors. Calvin Phillips added to the rumor mill, saying that he is available for a loan and there is potential for a redemption clause in there. I, number one, am not buying this one at all. I don't think Juve would go for Calvin Phillips. I don't think Calvin Phillips would go for Juve. It doesn't seem like a fit. And honestly, I don't want it. DePaul came up yesterday. I've always liked DePaul, but I shared my thoughts in that YouTube short, and so did all of you. We asked it on a Twitter poll question. If it was between DePaul and Samardzic, who would you choose? In a whopping 83% absolute beatdown, Samardzic wins it. 83% voting to take in Samardzic. Well, that 83% is going to love this news today, because apparently terms have been agreed upon between Juventus and Samardzic. Now it's up to Juventus to find a deal with Udinese on bringing the player in the winter mercado, okay? And this is another one where the standoff happens between Romeo Agresti and Schira, so it's going to be interesting to watch. But the latest rumors suggest that terms have been agreed upon. I am all aboard. You guys know where I stand. This is the type of player we need to bring in. And I still stand firm with what I believe, that Juventus is going to bring a midfielder and an attacker in the winter mercado. I'm staying true to that and standing firm on that one. But great news in terms of Samardzic. Hope it's true and hope it pans out and we could bring him in the winter mercado. Great business for Juventus if we can pull it off. Locatelli, set to renew to 2028. All left is just the signing from the player. This is something that was always set to happen. The will of the player has always been to remain at Juventus. And at Juventus, I've shared quite a bit on our podcast and on our shows that he is held in high regards around the club. Everything I'm getting at Turin is that the relationship between Juventus and Locatelli is just so natural, and everybody is absolutely happy. We saw him break down in the match, after the match against Milan and whatnot. For me, you know how I feel about players getting too emotional over moments that I don't think are actually that big, but it's his first goal in a long time. He's taken a lot of criticism, and it does show how much it means to him, because he does, in fact, want to be that guy, that key guy for Juventus. He wants it badly, and the feelings reciprocated from Juventus based on the high regards he's held in. He has to find rhythm and continuity in his play and has to take a level up, because I will say this, and I said it in the podcast as well post-match, he scored a goal, which was fantastic. He needed it and everything. I don't care how the ball goes in at the end of the day. He needed it badly, desperately. He got it, and it got us a big win. But for the most part in that game, I was infuriated by Locatelli's play, because he seemingly had zero sense of urgency, and I thought that that goal might have masked a pretty rough performance overall. But I'm glad that he fought through it, persevered, and found that huge goal for Juventus. And in the second half, after that goal, he was taking rips every time he had a line of sight on goal, and I like that and appreciate it. But he really does have to elevate, because while we are without Danilo, it's starting to see, when you ask the question, who is the captain? For me, captain has nothing to do with how long you've been at the club. It's all about what you bring consistently on the pitch. While I said even Rabiot doesn't strike it for me, I did give him credit post-match, because I think he had a strong showing against Milan, and I gave him credit for it. But ultimately, these guys have to do it consistently and be those key guys, especially if you want to be considered for the armband. Locatelli, I'm rooting for him, and I believe he can be that guy in the future, but he has to find continuity and be that guy on the pitch. Consistency is a big part of being a captain for me. Your guys' thoughts on captaincy, let me know. Chiellini weighs in on the situation at Juventus and Scudetto talks. He says right now it's too soon. We will know more in the return. And he says Juventus just needs to realize they can't lose awareness. They have to take it game to game, and they must realize that they can only win with a continued great effort from everyone involved. Okay, but he says Bianconeri fans can and must dream, all right? But it's up to the team to take it from game to game, all right? As far as the big question always surrounds Juventus after every game right now for a couple seasons, especially under Max Allegri, are we making progress? Are we making progress, everybody? Well, the numbers say yes, as we have 20 points in 9 games, the best start in Max Allegri 2.0. We've got more goals and more clean sheets. We're also trying to get Chiesa and Vlahovic back into the mix, okay? But after the Sassuolo debacle, it is 4 consecutive clean sheets. Is that a switch in mentality from the players? Are they starting to pick things up? For me, too soon to call it. We still have to wait. This team has to go on a stretch. It still feels like we're in a moment that we are waiting for that next blackout. I can't help but feel that way, but that's just because we have seen it, and we've seen it dating back to even Sarri's time. The team just has these brutal blackouts. They need to go on a extended run of good results and hopefully form. But I think the form will change drastically once we can get Chiesa back on the pitch, because he masks a lot of what's happening in the midfield. For me, the midfield needs correcting. Bring me Samardzic. But I ask all of you all of these questions. What do you think about these surprise names? Calvin Phillips, Rodrigo De Paul, Samardzic, terms agreed apparently. Let's go. Locatelli extension, captaincy. Your thoughts on captaincy, your thoughts on Scudetto hopes, and are Juventus making progress? I love mixing it up with you. Let's go in the comments section. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and please share the content. Do not forget about the giveaway we got running right now. Talked about Chiellini's words himself. Well, we're giving away 2 King Kong t-shirts coming with a signed 8x10 from the legend himself, Giorgio Chiellini. 2 lucky subscribers will win that. It pays to subscribe to the AJC. We'll talk to you all very soon. As always, fino alla fine, forza Juve, ciao tutti.
10,